I'm happy that we record, and the recording is important because not everyone can make it, and people want to be able to participate, and it's important to be able to share Divrei Torah with the alumni that are here, and to share Divrei Torah with those that are not here. But I'm happy that we had a chance to schmooze first and to reconnect, because there's nothing that takes the place of that. We don't want to, it's sometimes, you sometimes tell when the speaker is speaking to the recording. No offense, Eli, but you could tell sometimes when the speaker is speaking to the Torah anytime. You know what I mean? You want to be speaking to your audience, and Torah anytime is listening. I'm not on Torah anytime, but anyway, very, very, very interesting. I want to share with you something something that I went through, a sugya that I went through a bunch of years ago, and I recently was editing my notes, and I was like, wow, I forgot how cool this is. So I want to share that with you. There's a big famous kasha that the Magen Avram brings, the Maral talks about. It's a big famous cheshbon kasha about Shavuos, and that is that if you calculate 50 days from Yetzias Mitzrayim, you come out a day before Matan Torah. Because, very simple calculation, because they came out of Mitzrayim on Thursday. Okay, the Gemara goes through this at length, but this particular kasha is not in the Gemara. The Magen Avram brings this kasha. So they came out of Mitzrayim on a Thursday. That means that Sfira started on Friday. If Sfira started on Friday, Max, so then when did Sfira end?
It ends on a Thursday.
It ended on a Thursday, right? You have that? It ends on a Thursday. So, like for us, it started... Sfira started on Sunday night, right? Because Sunday was the first day of Pesach, and we're ending Sfira on Matzah Shabbos, right? That's how it goes, right? The 49 days. I didn't take math, so I'm just processing this, okay? So it's Thursday. So if they came out of Mitzrayim on Thursday, and they started counting Sfira on Friday, so that means they finished Sfira on Thursday, so that means that day 50 is Friday. But the Gemara says, Kulay al maloi pligi, de b'Shabbos nitna Torah. So among the kashas that the Magen Avram asks in Taf Tzadi Daled in Hilchos Shavuos is that if we got the Torah on Shabbos, so how could it be that we got the Torah on Shabbos if the 50th day was Friday? There is a machlokes in the Gemara if they got the Torah on the 6th day of Sivan or the 7th day of Sivan, but assuming that we got the Torah on the 6th day of Sivan, the 6th day of Sivan was Friday. So, the Magen Avram says, like a cryptic thing, he says that some say that it's a remez to Yom Tov Sheni Shel Galius. It's a remez to the concept of the fact that they got the Torah on Shabbos, it was a day skipped. We'll have to talk about what that means. But the concept is, because that's the second day of Shavuos, really, right? Day 51 is the second day of Shavuos. So this cheshbon, this kasha, indicates a remez to the idea of Yantif being on the 51st day after Yetzias Mitzrayim, after the beginning of the counting of Sfira. So I want to try to make some sense of this and explain this in a way that I think is, first of all, very enlightening, and second of all, when we get together, especially alumni, and we're talking, there's a value in our sharing Divrei Torah. But I personally feel an achrayus that it not just be sharing Divrei Torah, but it be something I can walk out with and do something with. So it's very, very interesting that this. I can come at this from many ways, and some of you have heard me touch on this inyan in different, the mishmars and so on. But let me say this piece, this way of bringing out the idea that in Parshas, I think it was Chanan, the Torah says that it's usher to add or subtract from the mitzvahs. Don't add and don't subtract from the mitzvahs. And then it says, right afterwards, next pasuk, it says, Einechem haroyos es asher asisi lebal pa'ar. You saw what I did to Baal Pa'ar. Anyone who worshipped Baal Pa'ar, HaKadosh Baruch Hu destroyed. Now, Baal Pa'ar was in a very, very, very bizarre Avodah Zarah, where the way to worship the Avodah Zarah was to use the facilities in front of the Avodah Zarah. So first of all, it would be good to have some, I can't make it not bizarre, But it would be good to have some sense of what that means. Like, what is the point of that? And more to the point, what does that got to do with not adding or subtracting from the Torah? Like, what's the flow here? Don't add to the Torah or subtract. Remember what happened to Baal Pa'ar. What do these two things have to do with each other? So based on what I've learned from my Rosh Hashiva, I understood the following. Those who don't know, I learned in Yeshiva's Pachad Yitzchak. My Rosh Hashiva is Rabbi Yonason David, Rav Hutner's son-in-law. And I had this chus to learn very, very, very much from him. He's the other Rosh Hashiva. Rav Aaron Schechter was the Rosh Hashiva in Chaim, Berlin. Took over for Rav Hutner. Rabbi Yonason David took over in Eretz Yisrael. You probably know that the Mashgiach was a Talmud of Rav Aaron Schechter. So the Mashgiach and I are like cousins. Okay, I learned from the other Rosh Hashiva. So, and that's why we love talking and learning, the Mashgiach and I. Anyway, so he said as follows. He said this concept, and I kind of put it together to these psukim. What is the idea that you can't add to the mitzvahs or take away from it? What's the idea? So he said it's because the number matters. The number 613 matters. If you add a mitzvah, you made it 614. That's not the same. If you take away, you made it 612. That's not the same. Why does the number matter? The number matters because the number 613 is 248 plus 365. Is 248 mitzvahs aseh and 365 mitzvahs lo aseh. The 248 and 365 matter because they reflect on the body of a person. 248 are the amount of avarim in a person, the amount of organs in a person, and 365 are the amount of gidim in a person, Chazal say. Okay? Sinews, whatever will be magdir as gidim, but somehow Chazal say there are 365 in the body. The point is that the Torah speaks to you. It's not that there's a Torah in Shamayim and Agav, you're trying to fulfill the Torah. No, the Torah honors you. The Torah is machshav you. The Torah was built to be a shidduch with you. So the idea is that when we follow the mitzvahs of the Torah, it's not like some prescription, like random, all size fits all prescription. It's a mahalach hachayim that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when He created the Torah, it fit perfectly. It was a perfect shidduch with the Adam, with man. That's very chashuv. That's incredibly empowering to think about that. Baal Pa'ar is the exact opposite. The worship of Baal Pa'ar, the concept of Baal Pa'ar is, this is God, and you're nobody. And you do the lowest form of human behavior. One of the things that we have in common with animals, getting rid of waste, it's like literally like the taking out the garbage. That's the lowest function that we do. And that's what you do in front of that Avodah Zarah, because the point of the Avodah Zarah is, in front of your God, you're nobody. You're nothing. And that's not Jewish. The Jewish understanding is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu honors us. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, stand with me. I'm going to be the Noisein HaTorah. I want you to be the recipient of the Torah. I'll give you an example. Shlomo HaMelech says, Yishakeni mi neshikos pihu. Yishakeni means he kissed me. Mi neshikos pihu. What a funny word. Pei yud hei vav. Is it his mouth or her mouth? What's pihu? So the Gra says it's a combination of both. It's piv and piha. It's his mouth and her mouth. The point being that Klal Yisrael stands opposite HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they say, we were kissed by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Does that sound like Baal Pa'ar? Baal Pa'ar, where you're a nobody, you're nothing, you're a speck of dust, or worse. That's the worship of Baal Pa'ar. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's worship is Panim el Panim, Diber Hashem imachem. Hashem spoke to you face to face. Hashem gave you the Torah, and He was machshav you. He put you on your feet. He was mechazek you, and He said that you being makabel the Torah is important. That's Yishakeni min neshikos pihu. That's the tzmichas haparshiyos, right? Don't add to the Torah and don't take away. Remember what happened to Baal Pa'ar. Hashem is saying, when I give you the Torah, I am machshav you. You are important. You know how important you are? You are so important that your opinion matters. That's how important you are. That when Chazal have an opinion, it becomes part of the Torah. And what is the end of that pasuk? Somebody know? Yishakeni minashikos piyu ki tovim doidecha miyayin. Right? So tovim doidecha miyayin, your friendship, your love is better than wine. What do Chazal darshan on that? Do you remember?
Yeah, the drushes of Chazal are more...
Very good. Very
more
good.
precious than
Top of his
Torah.
game. Chavivin divrei seifrim miyena shel Torah. That the words of Chachamim are more beloved than the wine of Torah itself. The words of the Chachamim, who are they? Hashem teaches the Torah. The Chachamim, their opinion doesn't matter. No, this is the Torah. This is Yishakeni minashikos piyu. This is panim el panim. This is ramach v'shasa. No, Yishakeni minashikos piyu ki tovim doidecha miyayin. You're an equal, Hashem says. Kaviyachel. You understand how Hashem honors us? Hashem says, you're an equal. I'm going to be the one who gives the Torah, and you have a position as well. You're the recipient of the Torah. And I want to know what your perspective is. I care about your opinion. Your opinion matters. The Maharal says that on the 50th day Hashem gave the Torah. Erev Shabbos. What? Chazal say it was on Shabbos. He said, no, we received the Torah on Shabbos. He says, the Maharal says that the giving of the Torah was a process that took 2 days. There was the Hashem giving the Torah, and then there was a day of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of Klal Yisrael receiving the Torah. Hashem gave the Torah, so I received it. Can you imagine if I would hand you something? You'd be like, okay, but now I have to receive it. I just gave it to you. What does that mean? Oh, but according to what we're saying, how beautiful is it? Hashem is being machshav, 2 separate things. I'm giving you the Torah, but your perspective matters. There's a separate day of you receiving the Torah, because that's also part of the process. It's not just memela. Your perspective matters. Your perception matters. Your participation matters. There's a chashivas here. And that's the remez. Isn't that amazing that the Magen Avram says it's maramis, the Yantav Sheni Shal Galias? What's Yantav Sheni Shal Galias? That's Divrei Seifrim. Right? Chavivim Divrei Seifrim, Yena Shal Torah. That's Yantav Sheni Shal Galias. So the extra day is marames to the fact that in many years Chazal are going to add a day to Yantif, and the Torah was already excited about that. Because, those are my Chachamim, because the recipients matter. And this is not just true about the takanos of Chazal. This is something that's a very, very valuable and important message for us to know. And that is that when we sit down to learn Torah, we are active participants in the miracle of Torah. And it's important, some of you have the schus that you're still spending time in Beis Medrash. Hashem should give you the kayach to be able to continue learning B'hasbada and Beis Medrash. But for many of us, and even though I'm in Beis Medrash, but I consider myself part of the second group, that for many of us we had to leave Beis Medrash. And we try. It's for me it's a struggle, but we try to stay attached to Torah. We try to learn Torah. We try to stay attached to Torah. We try to listen to and be connected to words of Torah. And one of the things that makes that difficult is that we don't really feel like we're contributing anything. We're not in Beis Medrash anymore. I'm not a Rebbe. I'm not a Rav. I'm a random guy who's, doing a daf or an amid or a sugya or a shnai mikra or a mishnah or whatever it is that I'm doing in my learning. But you don't see the impact on the world when you do that. You don't see how it transforms things. And this is important to go into Shavuos, remembering that your participation in Kabbalah Torah matters to Hashem. He wanted it to be another day of receiving the Torah. And your thoughts, when you come up with a Dvar Torah, and I always drive you crazy to write it down, right? When you come up with a thought, that thought is Torah. It's not just Hashem. Then you become the Divrei Seifrim. Chaviv and Divrei Seifrim Yehena Shel Torah. Because the recipients matter. And that's what I meant, that I wanted to say something that I think is a beautiful Dvar Torah. But this is very important for us to walk away with. We need to know that wherever we are, we never lose our chashivas as a recipient of Torah. And my thoughts, my perspective, my connection, the time that I spend, the energy that I put in, that extra time, even if I'm exhausted, even if I'm busy, even if it's been a while, to try to plug into Torah, it matters. It's not just, another person in the crowd. No, it matters. HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes notice. One of my recipients of my Torah is active now. On some systems, right? When you know who's on, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows who's on. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees when you open a sefer, a light goes on up there, like, it's on. He's in, he's plugged in. He's connecting and contributing and transforming Klal Yisrael and adding to Kavod Shemayim. And I always like to end with a bracha. That's the bracha that we should go into Yontiv with a certain confidence and pride, maybe even a little gaiva, that we are people that matter to Hashem. We are people that change Klal Yisrael. We're people whose efforts make a difference. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give us the kayach to be able to find that space for Torah in our life, wherever our life's journey brings us, with confidence and with joy, Be'ezer Hashem. Yashikayach.